All right, we will go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming. I know it's a busy time of year, spring. I apologize for my voice. I just got done watching an 8th grade Combs Middle School basketball game. It was very intense, especially the last few minutes. Welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your evening to be here. For those that are watching our live broadcast on YouTube or Facebook, or if you happen to have neighbors or people in your community that you would like to invite to watch this that weren't able to come tonight, we will leave those videos up so you can go to our YouTube, to our Facebook page and see those. It's stvac.org, and you can grab one of these cards on your way out. And there's all the details on finding our website, email, and social media there. For any of you that are not familiar with our organization, because Santan Valley is not yet incorporated, that is an effort that is underway. We have a council, and that is the Santan Valley Advisory Council that is hosting this education session this evening. And basically what we do is we work in conjunction with the community and the county to try and bridge any gap that might be there. Tonight, we are going to learn more about the half-cent maintenance tax and some other planning and infrastructure and roadway, maybe questions, concerns, or other information that you might be interested in learning more about. And without any further ado, we will go ahead and Celeste, right? Celeste, if you saw any of the advertisements, we had 2 other speakers from Pinal County. And they weren't able to make it, but Celeste is here, and she's wonderful and amazing. We've met her before, so I'll let you introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about what you do at the county, and then get into your presentation. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Celeste Garza. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director for Pinal County. I've taken tonight away from Tara and Dedrick just because they've been doing this quite often, and I felt like I could probably do this one for them. We've been presenting the same information throughout the county for the last several months now. So a little bit of background. So I've been with the county almost 18 years now. I was born and raised in Casa Grande, I went to ASU, and I bought my first home in Santan in 2004. So I bought a house in Circle Cross Ranch. So I lived the pre-whitened ironwood. I drove the stop signs along that highway. It's come a long way out here as far as the infrastructure is concerned. So is there more to do? Absolutely. So here tonight, I'm going to explain to you and present our Transportation Improvement and Maintenance Plan update. This is also known as our Preserving Pinal initiative. So next slide, please. So how is road maintenance and repair funded in Pinal County? It's funded with the vehicle license tax. So this is the tax that you pay when you register your car in the county. That makes up about 21% of the county's revenues. And then our highway user revenue fund. So this is your gasoline tax that is shared amongst the state and city agencies. This is the tax that's been in place since 1991, but it's never been increased or decreased. It's about 56% of the county's revenues. And finally, we have the half-cent excise tax, which we're calling the Transportation Maintenance and Improvement Fund. This makes up about 23% of the county's revenues. So the county doesn't use any of your property tax to pay for any transportation infrastructure. We only use these 3 funding sources in order to fund any roadway improvements within Pinal County's area.
The first 2, those are state funds?
The state funds?
Yeah, they come from the state, the first 2?
They are collected at the state level, and then they're distributed based on population down to the cities and counties.
In counties?
Yes.
But the half-cent excise tax is a county tax.
The half-cent excise tax is the only local revenue. So that is anything that you purchase in Pinal County, there's a half-cent that's taken from every purchase, and it's collected, and then it's distributed based on population. And we'll get into that here in a couple slides.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. So a little bit about the history of the half-cent excise tax. It's been in existence since 1986. So voters originally passed it in 86. The population of Pinal County then was about 100,000, and it sunset in 2006. So then it was again renewed in 2005. Population was about half of what we have today. And then this 20 years will sunset in 2026. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this excise fund or tax is not the same as Proposition 417 or 469 for the Regional Transportation Authority. This is completely different. This is an excise fund that's been in existence for the last 40 years, so nearly all of my adult life. Next slide, please. The fund itself. So the fund's collected at the state level, and it's based on population. So it's, population-based formula of how the Department of Revenue disperses the funds throughout these agencies. So we have 10 municipalities within the county, and portions go to all of these different cities and towns that we have. And a portion goes to Pinal County in the unincorporated areas. Next slide, please. So how is the fund used? So we use it for several different things, primarily for road repair, pavement preservation, some new road construction, and you'll see some projects that we've worked on that have been funded by this, or portions have been funded by it. Pothole repair, intersection improvements, some traffic signals have been completed with this fund. Next slide, please. The fund's goals. So the fund's goals are public safety, so trying to provide connections within the community, safer intersections, improving emergency response time, managing growth. Some of these improvements are widening, congestion mitigation, things like that. Protecting taxpayers. So when we preserve asphalt and we don't have to rehabilitate it with a big reconstruction effort, it's much cheaper to keep the infrastructure the long term. Air quality. So portions of Pinal County are under a particulate matter designation where we have to mitigate dust in some areas on roads that we maintain. So it's also used for dust palliative projects. Next slide, please. So the financials. So this slide shows what we've accumulated this year so far. So we've generated about $26 million in revenue so far this year. Each month, about $3 million a month is generated by the fund. Last year in total, we collected a little over $36 million, and again, about $3 to $3.5 million per month is collected. Next slide, please. So this is the distribution, how the funds are distributed amongst Pinal County and then the cities and towns, and the unincorporated cities and towns. So 49% of the revenue is Pinal County, and then you can see it's very small on the bottom here, but I can provide this presentation so you can upload it. Those are the different agencies: Apache Junction, Casa Grande, Coolidge, Lawrence. Next slide, please. Pavement preservation in Pinal County. So last year, about half of the fund is spent on pavement preservation. It generates about $15 million in revenue for the unincorporated area of Pinal County. About half of that is spent on our preservation program. We did about 400 lane miles and about 3,000 total yards of applied chip seal, fog seal, slurry seal, all of those maintenance type projects. Next slide, please. These are the different pavement preservation types: the crack sealing program, chip sealing, pavement striping. Then after, these are the different preservation techniques that you'll see throughout the county. Yes.
How many counties are unincorporated within Pinal?
There's only one.
Okay.
Yeah, just one.
Or towns, I meant, like,
There's 10 different agencies. 10 different other
that are
jurisdictions.
unincorporated.
No, they're incorporated.
So is Santan like out there on its own, unincorporated within the
Correct.
county? Okay.
Yep. It's not. It's in the unincorporated areas. Correct. Yep. Next slide, please. So this was a big pavement preservation project, and I'm sure many of you have seen the signs out there. We did a mill and overlay project on Hunt Highway. between Magma Road and Arizona Farms, Magma Road and Magic Ranch, and pieces of Arizona Farms, and then we put up a temporary traffic signal at this intersection. This was about a $3 million investment of those excise funds. Next slide, please.
Right, is this the Hunt Highway, Arizona Farms intersection?
Correct.
I don't know if I can comments on this now, but I mean, I have some issues with the way that progressed with the last 8 years. They put in that police department, sheriff's department way station there was originally, and then they widened Hunt Highway so that you had access to that building. Another 200 feet, or less than that, they could have widened it at the same time without much more expense. They could have put in the turning lane. They didn't. So then you had the project in the temporary light, right? They just finished that last year. Great. Now you got a turning lane going south on the highway onto Arizona Farms Road, eastbound Arizona Farms. You didn't put a turning lane on the southbound on the highway.
So
I mean, again, you got the road blocked, you got all the other structures up, you got the highway equipment there to repair. How much harder would it have been to widen, just like when they put the sheriff's department station there, I don't know, 8 years ago, they widened the road, but they didn't go further enough to make a turn lane on the Arizona Farms Road. And now you did the turn lane on the Arizona Farms Road, but you didn't widen it enough to have a turn lane on the northbound Hunt Highway. So that traffic backs up in one lane.
So
Does this make any sense?
it makes absolute sense, sir.
This is what frustrates us.
No, and I understand that, but it's exactly that. It's a temporary traffic signal. These are not the ultimate improvements.
A turn lane it would have worked still.
And
under this same
the
intersection.
proximity of this intersection into the Justice of the Court complex and the county complex is too close for us to be able to fit both lanes safely. There's not enough room to hold enough cars in order for us to put that other turn lane in.
On the northbound Hunt Highway?
This portion is in the Gila River Indian Reservation. We don't own the land yet to widen for the turn lane, southbound or northbound. So these are not the ultimate plans for this. We've been in your elected officials back there. We've been working on trying to acquire the land across the Gila River for the last almost 10 years. It's taken that long for us to get through.
Okay,
So
but if you go far enough east, we own that land. With a grader, you could make a new line around the reservation
I wish it was that easy.
at the minimum cost,
Yeah.
because it's private or state.
Yes, so we have to purchase it as well.
That's not an option? You like to keep a straight road?
Well, ultimately, the intersection Arizona Farms will not be here. It's gonna be a quarter mile south of here. It's gonna come in at a T. It's gonna look completely different from this in the future.
How many years?
Well, I'm hoping 3 years, so.
Provided we get this
Yeah.
back.
Yes, provided we get these funds to build it, yes.
We almost got around.
Yeah, We're-
Rick.
yeah.
We almost just said, we want to mess with you anymore, we're gonna go around. And that was 5 years ago, and then they came back to the table and said, we'll work this out with you, and then here, not even 6 months ago, they came back and said, we have a new council. So they reneged on the whole deal. So
It's been difficult to say
It's
the
really,
least.
totally get the frustration, if you don't know the background behind that, I get where you guys are coming from. And so,
This project is really just a Band-Aid. We are trying to get through the next 3 to 4 years, and we knew the road was falling apart. So we were just trying to keep you guys driving on the surfaces safe so that we can work through the widening and the new traffic signals and the new alignment of the intersection. So know that this is a temporary measure so we can preserve the next few years to get us to that point.
It's a lot better than what it was.
Next
I would
slide.
agree with that.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I would agree.
So this is another project we have in the works. So this is the Queen Creek Wash Crossing at Kenworthy Road. This is going to provide another north-south 3-lane facility between Chandler Heights and Combs Road. So this is the box structure they have under construction today. This project is in conjunction with the widening of Combs Road between Kenworthy and Schneff. So that'll provide a lot of infrastructure in that northern portion of Santan to get folks around. So this is another project that should be complete by next spring, early summer next year.
It looks like they've started on the combs from Kenworthy to Schnapp.
That's right.
What about Kenworthy to Ocotillo? That's underway? Is there I'm
This-
sorry, combs on
Yes.
Kenworthy to Ocotillo? Is there a
Yes,
time
it
frame
is.
for that
Yes,
completion?
yes, that will be somewhat within this
With that
project.
one, okay.
What about SNF coming all the way down to the Santan Valley County Administrative Building? Is that ever gonna happen?
We're working on that one as well. There's some land rights challenges with some VOR and New Magna Irrigation District that parallels Schneff Road, so we need to work through some of the land rights. But we do realize that several thousand homes are gonna be located right where we are today, and they're gonna be traveling Schneff Road to get to where they need to go north, if they're gonna be commuting to work north. So it's in the works, it's just, it's another one of those challenges where we only have so much revenue we have to prioritize.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. So this was not completely funded by the excise tax, but it was funded, portions of it were funded. This was the 10 miles of Hunt Highway that we've widened over the last, 10 years or so, from Ellsworth all the way up to Magna Road. It was definitely a significant effort. It had to be bonded for, and that bond required a payment, and some of that payment came from the excise fund. Next slide. There's been several connections that we've made over the course of the last, 10 years or so. This is a piece of germain that we improved between Ironwood and Meridian. It didn't have a connection before, but this provides another alternative to getting to Ellsworth or getting to the 24. But now, of course, you have Meridian built, so now Meridian's built up north that was funded by HERF revenues up to the state rep. Next project. Magna Road, this was another connection over in the Johnson Ranch area. This was a crucial improvement that improved emergency response time by 12 minutes. So Rural Metro was having to travel, they're located in Copper Basin and along Hunt Highway. To get to the Foothills residence was having to travel Hunt Highway all the way up to Gary Road and then come back down south. So now they can use their Copper Basin station, use Magna Road and get to all those folks, and as well as the high school that's located back there. Next slide, please. We've done a lot of countywide safety improvements. So we've placed speed humps, speed feedback signs all throughout different areas in order to hopefully slow down those drivers or at least make them aware of what speeds they're traveling. Those are all funded through this funding source. About $500,000 in revenue from this fund every year will go to those improvements. Next slide, please. So the Transportation Advisory Committee, this is a board-appointed committee. The 2 community members from each district is appointed to the committee. They review all the proposals that come from any resident can submit a project request. It can be put, prioritized and reviewed and put on the 5-year plan. The TAC committee meets 3 times a year, and they are fiscally constrained by that, $50 million revenue that's generated each year, and they prioritize all of these projects that we work on. Next slide, please.
Celeste, I have questions. So
Sure.
Either here or later in here, maybe could you elaborate a little bit on if we have audience members that would be interested in proposing projects here? So how do they go about doing that? If they have ideas, like the gentleman in the front row here has ideas about certain intersection, maybe needing improvements, how would somebody go about doing that?
Absolutely, yeah, and I think once we finish the slideshow, I can go onto the county website, then we can walk through submitting a request, so you can see where it's located on the website.
How are people elected for the TAC committee?
The TAC committee is appointed,
As
so
appointed.
your elected official will appoint two members from the community in each different district in the county.
Board of Supervisors.
Board of Supervisors.
Or
Elected, yes, Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, it's right behind you.
Chase that guy down at the end of the meeting.
So Pinal County today, we're a little under 500,000, we're bordering that 500,000 in population. This funding will expire again in sunset in 2026. Right now, we are amidst the community feedback, community outreach. In the early part of the summer, we're gonna start having those renewal discussions with all of the different agencies to make sure that everybody is ready to potentially put this on the ballot in November. So this is something that you're likely gonna see in November with everything else on the ballot. So
Is the half-cent one
it's
again?
the half-cent excise fund, correct. Next slide, please.
And that population number is as of
That is based on the last census,
the last census?
yes.
Which is
So there's even more,
Yeah.
a whole lot more, especially here.
And I don't know why the font looks a little different here, but, so this is just an example of, we generate about 36 million in total with all the agencies and us. This is what can happen if you don't preserve a road. This is the old US 60. This is a piece of El Camino Viejo. When they built the new US 60, they gave a portion back to the county. We haven't prioritized its maintenance, unfortunately, because it doesn't see a lot of traffic. We'd rather spend those funds where we know residents are going to be using the improvements. So this is what can happen if preservation doesn't happen. Or the fund goes away and we don't have enough money to preserve our roadways. Next slide. So we're going to have an open house in a couple of weeks for every resident in Santan as well to come and give any community feedback, ask any question they'd like to know about the Transportation Improvement Fund. It'll be on Thursday, April 11th. It'll be at the Santan Valley Complex, just kind of over there a little bit. And it'll be at 6 o'clock. So we're more than willing to, we'll present a lot of this information again then, so that folks can hear it again if they haven't seen it at the education series today. And finally, so if you see these signs posted throughout the county, these are basically letting you guys know that those were funds that were from the Preserving Pinal Excise Fund. So this is, it's just kind of an example of us trying to promote how we use the funding, what it's used for. So my daughter, a couple weeks ago, got her instructional permit. And I think it's really important that I preserve her future, so, and as well as the next 20 years and generations to come, because it'll be in place long after I'm gone. So that's my presentation. I'm happy to answer any more questions, even though I did answer a few of them. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't know if this is an elephant in the room, but what do you guys know about what Katie Hobbs has done pulling the funding for State Route 24?
Boy, that's a loaded question.
I
That's
know.
for you in the back.
Yes.
They're asking about the 87 million. What can you
That's
tell us
exactly
about
right.
what's happening?
Surprise guest speaker for the evening, Board of Supervisors Mike Goodman.
Mike Goodman? Okay.
Yes, they, so that's the frustrating part about all of it, is that she's the one that signed it for in-law last year, and everybody else that was allocated money to go back into their communities. Do I need the speaker?
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to move.
So everybody that was allocated, the state representatives had so much money that they could put back into their communities, and some of them pulled together, and that's exactly what happened for us. And there was $87 million that was allocated because we want to put an overpass right directly at Ironwood over the 24. So just to give you a perspective, where the prices have escalated when it comes to construction, this is the part that just blows me away. How many are you familiar with the interchange there over at Ellsworth Road?
Yeah.
On the 24? It's pretty complex. When they built that, 3.5 years ago, the total cost was about $40 million. Okay, that's how complex. Today's dollars is going to cost us at this point. Part of it I
feel is because of that clawback that she's held back. We're looking at $112 million to build that overpass, and it's nowhere near as complex as the other one. So we have an opportunity coming up in a few days that I'll be with the governor, and it'll be in a public setting, and I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to let her know that these prices keep escalating, and the more that we don't receive those dollars, the more the cost is going to be increased. And so, and I would recommend that you as individuals, she's your representative as well, even though you may or may not have elected her. Letters and everything to her, especially here in the Santan Valley area. And the fact is that when we have the proper infrastructure, the proper roads, we're going to see the right kind of growth come into this area. LG's here now. They've got a massive construction going on, and a lot of that is because of the infrastructure right there. And working with LG and those we've already got everything in the works to move that Germain Road to the north of the power line.
What about, are they combining or contributing to the
Yes.
expense for widening the road on Gorman?
They have to.
They have to.
Every
or they
development
are?
that comes in,
Okay.
part of their responsibility, whether it be commercial or residential, they're having to help contribute. And so by the sign of impact fees, the traffic analysis fees, those are some things that are factored into that, any housing development that comes in. That was a decision that we as a board took with all these new developments. Let's make them responsible for not only their in front of where they're developing, but in the form of impact fees when they sell off a house or whatever. That's another fee that we use to help us build these new roads. Yes, ma'am.
Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like all the housing developers are developing based off the knowledge they had about State Route 24, and that's why there's such an infrastructure logjam right now on these major roads like Ocotillo and Schneff. Is that a correct statement? Because I believe that typically the developers have to, as well, home developers have to pay the impact fee for the infrastructure. So a lot of people are have a misconception that it's, the state or the county that's completely responsible when the developers are partly responsible. But now with that, Katie pulling back because of a budget shortfall, they're still developing.
Well, and what's going to happen is we'll get that 87 million. I mean, there's enough going on right now at the legislature. It's unfortunate that it's been held back for several months now, that the price of construction has just increased. But when I talk about the developers, they're responsible and pay for all the improvements directly in front of their roads. I mean, in front of their development. So the developments that's going on Schneff Road there, each one of those developers are responsible for curbs, sidewalks, gutters, all the issues. If they had to move the power lines to make the road wider, they had to do that. They bore the expense for that. And they make that up whenever they factor that into the cost of the lots and the cost of the home sale. But where we get on the back end, when they sell a house, there's an impact fee that helps us address the regional part of all of it. So that, those homes that are being built down south here, whether they're going to affect the traffic patterns and everything else up on the north side. Well, until we bring more industry into this area, most of these people are going to be working in Phoenix. So the commute's going to be in that direction still. Now we're trying to plug the holes there, but in the meantime, until we get there, we need to address the road issues. And that's where our impact fees have a huge amount that we help out there.
I live in Paloma Ranch, and I bought there and moved in 2021. And I back up to Ocotillo, and the amount of traffic on Ocotillo and Schneff right now, sometimes I can't even get out of my development. I have to hang a right and go all the way around just to, get back to Ironwood. It's pretty bad. So are there plans with the Kenworthy all the projects that Celeste mentioned, is there any plans for Ocotillo widening?
Yes. Plain and simple, yes. All those roads, every one of them are going to be widened. There's some new projects that are coming in that are going to be having to do their portion. And then we've got some other dollars that have been coming into us to help and assist us with the additional other parts. You know, these impact fees over the years, we've collected quite a few. And so there's some areas that we don't have development. Schneff Road, you're talking about Schneff Road. You know, you've got Casagate there and Laredo Ranch. They both have done their improvements in that line. Well, the rest of that's going to be on our shoulders to bear whenever, because we're going to get it to 5 lanes. That's what we're going to do. It's going to be 5 lanes all the way down to Ocotillo, and then it will shrink down to 3 lanes. The goal is to move it away from those mini farms, but with the expressway that we've got planned and designed to come off of the 24 and follow the CAP canal, that'll help take a lot of this traffic and move it in a orderly fashion so that they're not burdening our current roads, which are already burdened, such as Meridian. Well, mostly it's Gansel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the widening of Schnepp isn't widening it south beyond Skyline. That's not part of the plan yet. So that's
So,
part one of my question. Part two is,
okay, let's back up. Let me make sure I'm clear on the first part, the first question.
you said that Schnepp was going to be widened 4 lanes all the way to 24, going north. So I thought I read
No.
the handout planning.
Schneff Road will not be widened all the way to the 24 because,
Well, I mean to Gurm.
Ocotillo.
yeah, to Germain. But we're gonna go to Ocotillo 5 lanes, and then from Ocotillo on, we're only gonna go 3.
Because I live right on Schnepp and Skyline. That's right where it curves. By the way,
So you're down a little bit, okay?
in my 69 years of living here, there's not a straight road through anywhere in Pinal County, except on highway because of George Johnson. We used to go from Queen Creek to Florence in 20 minutes when it was dirt.
Yeah.
Can't do that now.
Boy,
But-
I can do it
And
in
the other one is
15.
Arizona Farms Road. Arizona Farms Road goes through. Every other road, they're curving. There's a pump there. We want to hurt farmers, there's a pump there. So we don't go Attaway Road from up here in Arizona Farms all the way through. The other thing, the main thing about Schnepp though is, my understanding is Schnepp is on a section line.
Correct. Most of our roads
What
are on
happened to the
section line.
section line right of ways for roads?
Can you explain what a section line means?
You wanna explain?
Well, the county's survey divided into 1 mile sections, so it's like a grid system.
Okay.
So Schnepp falls on one of those grid lines, just like Ironwood, Kenwood,
Okay.
Schnepp. Yep.
There's a historic right of way for roads along section lines. Whether you live there or
In
not.
certain townships.
In certain townships, and we've tried to adhere to that since I've been in office. That's been part of my frustration, why I got into this, is because of the very thing that you're talking about, not holding to some of these section lines. Chandler Heights, I whine about that every time, because you've got Chandler Heights from Schneff Road, and they allow those mini farms right there. They
Planning and zoning?
whoever allowed the planning on all of it, okay? We're talking years and years, well, bottom line is, years and years ago. And guys that didn't see what was coming down, okay? That's the reality of it all. They could not see beyond a certain point. This is it's always gonna be farming. So, the bottom line is you take that from Schneff Road all the way, there's 2 Kenworthy, that should have been open, but that's all private road. So they have it fenced off, and they have the right to do that. Then you go from Kenworthy on Chandler Heights, and you can only go to those mini farms. You go through Gansel, and then you get to the mini farms, and the people in those mini farms stop it from going on and connecting into Meridian Road years ago. Okay, and that new subdivision that's there is in the town of Queen Creek. They allowed it to go forward. So the bottom line is, so those are some areas, when I came into this, I realized we've got to have a lot more communication between all the different entities. Meridian Road is the dividing line. So we have City of Mesa, Apache Junction, Pinal County, City of Crane Creek, okay? And then Maricopa County. So you have 5 public entities that are responsible for that road. So when we were designing and talking about it and everything, we were getting pushback from like City of Mesa and so on and so forth. Anyway, long story short, we were able to move forward. You want to know why? Because Town of Queen Creek and Pinal County are the ones that paid for it. Now, the goal was to get it all the way up to the 60. We just found out here last week that they are moving forward in the City of Mesa and Apache Junction because those developers that are happening there on the north side of the 24 want Meridian to go all the way through the baseline. So those things that we started 8 years ago, they're starting to become a reality. So those are all starting to happen. You know how expensive I farm. So you know how expensive it is to drill one of those wells? That's why, yeah, that's why they just went around, you know.
They don't even
Don't mess
go
with
around.
my- don't
They
mess
go
with-
a mile around when they could, maybe a curve or something.
Well,
But my point is, here is this university, the Central Arizona College of Santan. And I compare this to Mesa Community College. And I look at the same. Mesa Community College was in the middle of a cotton field when it was first built. But Mesa's brilliant in the road designs. They had Southern, they had Alma School, Baseline, and I mean, they had it surrounded by major arterial roads already. And then they pushed the freeway through. Again, the north-south corridor isn't going to do us any good out there, where it was advertised as going to help relieve traffic. Well, there's no traffic out there right now. So I'm thinking they're going to help relieve traffic in Santana Valley. But it isn't built for that. It was built for the Superstition Vistas project out there in the boonies in 20 years. And that's what's happening. It's not going to relieve traffic. We're always going to go 6 miles.
so to your
east
point,
relieve the traffic.
the county made a pivot, and we are following that alignment that everybody voted for.
It's not helping us.
No,
But
because we got to build it. We still got to build it.
That's
And
way
it-
down the road. It's not going to help.
No, we're not talking about the farthest one. We're talking about the
Parkway.
expressway that's coming off of
Yeah,
the
you're
20.
talking about the parkway along the.
Correct.
around the-
We're in the design and everything, and we're moving on that one pretty quick.
But again, back to this here and Skyline, I thought it's along the section line. Why wouldn't you push Skyline all the way through to Bella Vista?
So I have a suggestion for you. You ready to hear it? I need to get your name, and we'll put you on the TAC.
I'm here.
So,
I've got lots of projects.
I-
Highway Road, Highway, are familiar with
you know
that?
what? But then
I live there.
Do you live on a budget?
I get that. But
That's
again,
where
as
we're
far
at.
as budgets go, way back when people were complaining about Maricopa County not getting the freeway in and all kinds of stuff back in the 80s and 90s, they finally passed a 1/4 cent a gallon tax. Oh my God. They got 200 miles of road with a 1/4 cent a gallon tax. They got 200-mile freeways.
Right.
They did an outstanding job at a 1/4 cent a gallon. I said, man, are you kidding me? I could have paid my tax for 20 years, gas tax, with a $50 bill. Do people understand how insignificant that is? And I know what the trucker does. That hurts us, our business. But it's the selling the cost for the tax, you know, okay, 1/2 cent. 1/2 cent looks like it's doing great road maintenance, per your presentation. I think you're doing a good job. The other half isn't keeping up with new roads. It ain't gonna cut it. from this
Well,
point
just so you know, we don't have another 1/2 cent sales tax to build new roads. Now, that will be coming down the pipeline, but we don't have that,
forward. It's still inadequate.
like Maricopa does. Yes, ma'am.
Why don't we do bonds to?
We've been doing bonds, and we're looking at some projects right now that will be going to bonds. And highway is one that we bonded. She talked about that.
Yeah, but it seems like we need a whole lot more to get things.
Correct. But with those bonds, you've got to have the ability to pay it back.
Correct.
And so that's why it's imperative. So we made a decision a long time ago as a board that we weren't going to use your property tax dollars to pay for our roads. we were going to, the people that are actually using the roads, and that's the best way to do that is through a sales tax. So that's where we're gonna be, we've got some other plans down the road, but the biggest one that we need right now to help get pushed through is this one right here. Because we need to preserve what we currently have. Now, back to your, in 2010, and this is another history lesson. All you can go farther back than that. I'm a native Arizonan, probably like you. Grew up in East Mesa. So when you talk about East Mesa, I know a lot about East Mesa.
They did a brilliant job in the south leg
So-
of the 202, complete with turn lanes, HOV lanes.
Amen,
It was a
amen,
masterpiece.
praise, I'm with you, 100%.
It was a masterpiece.
I-
And they paid for
Hey,
it up front, right?
I attribute to those Mormon people.
Yeah.
They knew how to build roads, they knew how to get people moved through, and so let me go back to 40 years ago. 40 years ago, when these guys started to buy this land around here, they got together, all these landowners, and they came up with the north-south corridor back then. You know what that alignment was? It was the Meridian Road alignment,
That was beautiful.
all the way down to Rittenhouse,
That would have been
and
great.
then it followed the railroad tracks all the way down to Attaway, not that way, Attaway.
I know.
You did get my joke, I'm sorry. Anyway, crossing that was the original plan, and they didn't hold to it, and then plan accordingly. Well, and then everything just exploded from there. And so now we're having to play catch up. In 2010, our legislators, along with the governor, when they found that they were in a shortfall on their revenues, they made a decision to rob what they call HERF funds. And I use the word rob because they robbed Peter to pay Paul to balance their budget. Now, they legislatively, they have to balance the budget just like every public entity that there is. And so in 2010, they were taking those HERF dollars, that sales tax that you pay when you go to the pump, they were taking those dollars and to balance their budget, which means that all the cities and all the counties were not getting those funds. And they did that for 7 years straight. It wasn't until I came back into office in 2017, they started to have a surplus, and then they started to dip and start to pay what was rightly the counties and the cities in the first place. Personally, anytime that we cut back on transportation, we shoot ourselves in the doggone foot when it comes to being able to attract the different industry and growth. If we're not growing,
Superstition's a good example of that. They were pushing out into the middle of the desert in the 1990s. What are you doing out here? I'll tell you what they're doing. As soon as that freeway went in, what that happened? Built manufacturing, all these businesses sucked right up to that freeway and went right along
you're
with it.
talking about
Brought
the
in
303.
business. Huh?
You're talking about the 303 on the west side?
I'm talking about the Superstition Freeway
Oh.
in the 80s and 90s, the 60s.
Yeah, so this funding source in I think 82 or 83, originally was passed in Maricopa County. So that's the Prop 400 money that's also going to be on the ballot for Maricopa County voters. It's pretty shocking to me that county officials at the time in 86 saw the same need, to put in infrastructure, because that funding that Maricopa County passed in 82 is what funded the loop system, the freeway loop system in Maricopa County. So I think it's pretty cool that, county officials thought, we need to do the same thing. We need to pass this excise fund and we need to build some sort of infrastructure that surrounds Pinal County. Yeah, they had the vision even way back then, which is pretty amazing to me.
First a comment, I think it's great that the county's trying to get ahead of the power curve here, putting in that central artery. Let's face it, it's gonna be built on for the next 5 to 10 years. So it's gonna be a mess. It's a mess now. You get to 24 and it's down to 25 miles an hour. And so, well, and it's only gonna get worse, because now you get all that infrastructure.
And we got
And as
24
far as the
hours.
central Arizona, the central artery, or whatever the name is, if you build it, they will come.
They will.
It's that simple. And for once, the county is saying, we need to get ahead of the power curve, which is brilliant. I just think it's wonderful. Now, here's my question. I think it was in 2017, we voted a tax, and then the Supreme Court struck it down, and that's money's been sitting there, you know, doing nothing for anybody. So what's the latest word on that? It's gonna continue sitting there doing nothing for nobody.
So
That's another.
we have some sessions coming up from the board level because the ruling is we've got to reimburse that back to anybody that makes a claim on it, which would be your retailers. They're the ones that collected it. So if they make a claim on it, then we'll end up reimbursing that back. Now, there's some individuals out there such as, and I can do this, the county can't do this. Where does Celeste go?
She's hiding.
But personally, because I'm a resident here, I'm not an employee of the county, I'm an elected official. So there are several elected officials going to the Walmarts, the Home Depots, and trying to shame them in not filing a claim, because in 26, whatever's left over in the balance in that will more than likely be allocated to. And there's about $93, $94 million, and it's growing because of interest rate. So it is growing. But the ruling just happened here in the last few weeks. And so we're gearing ourselves up. We'll be working with the Arizona Department of Revenue, and anybody that makes those claims will be cutting checks back to them. But it won't be individuals like you and I. It'll be the big retailers. Yeah, it won't be thus, and that's the difficult part when you look at what the Goldwater Institute did. It was all, anyway.
Didn't the county, the supervisors, didn't you put something out about that if they chose not to claim it, that you would do something for them or something? I don't know. Am I getting this mixed up with that?
No, there's only so much.
Where it's gonna be difficult for them to keep it without putting it back into the community that it came from.
That's the objective. That's what we would like to see them do.
Because that just happened recently when Home Depot opened up in Santan, and they were charging Queen Creek sales tax.
Yeah.
And Neil Carter said no, and they reimbursed it, and they said that you can have it, but you're gonna have to put it back into the community. And that's my understanding is what happened with that. And that was only like.
Yeah,
six
just to be
months,
fair in
3
that, they
months,
caught
they
that
had
pretty
that.
quick.
Yes,
That
they
was
did.
an error that was made from corporate level. And it was probably within the first 2 or 3 weeks that they were doing that, they caught it and immediately stopped it. And then they started to reimburse people back.
Right,
And so, and that stuff happens.
yes.
So,
It's challenging having Santan be unincorporated because I'm a small business owner. So when I do my monthly transaction filing, it's Queen Creek that I have to pay the tax on.
well,
Gobbling up.
in the
The
not,
built areas,
in the not too far distant
Five.
future,
They just
There'll
eat
be-
it all up into their secret.
there'll be an opportunity.
But they're doing a
for-
great job of infrastructure. I got to Queen Creek credit. I mean,
Oh,
they're putting in one
here's where they deserve credit, is they've been utilizing the demographics of everybody over here
Yeah.
to assist them so that they could put in all the retail and everything. And so, to be honest with you, because they've got their stuff together, now they've annexed into our county, and look at the things that are coming into our county, the Target, the Sprouts. Those are gonna be
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. Oh, yeah, I was waiting for you.
I might get tomatoes thrown at me. I really like Chick-fil-A. I thought it was overhyped and then I tried it.
But right now with that, I avoid that intersection at all costs. Do you know how crazy it's gonna be when
It's hard
Chick-fil-A
to get in
opens?
and out of the Safeway there.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah, what are they gonna,
So we have some more stores coming out. We have a Discount Tire that's gonna go by the Dairy Queen.
Is when.
We have a Brake Master, And yes, we have a Winco going out by the Home Depot and several others. How many are you familiar with Five Below?
Yeah.
My daughters, they were all excited about that. That's going out there. It's a big one. Yes,
Mike,
ma'am.
you started to,
Yes.
talk about in the near future, is it gonna be on the ballot to incorporate Santan?
Yes. Not this go around. It'd more than likely be a special election
We'd be
for this
stupid not to.
geographical area.
We
Yes.
could get so much more funding if we were incorporated.
Yeah, well, the numbers are roughly about $66 million right off the bat.
I have a question for her. Can you just give us a breakdown of the fuel tax, the gasoline tax, how much federal, how much state?
You know, I think I don't know the science behind it. There's some magical creative formula that the state has. And
Gee, are you
they
saying that the
shave-
government made something complex?
They shave off a lot of, that. I think we probably get close 6 to 8 cents of every gallon that's purchased down in the county.
So is that 18 cents, is that federal too, and ours?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so.
The gas has really gone up, hasn't it? I know where I need to put my stocks, right?
Yeah.
I was just gonna show you how to submit a project request, so just in case you're thinking of something that you would like to submit, any, if you live on a dirt road, how to get it paved or chip sealed, traffic signals, things like that. If you wanna report any issues, I'll just show you here. I'm gonna back up a little bit so we can get back to,
This includes, Celeste, this also includes speed calmers, like speed bumps or?
yes,
Okay.
yep. So on the county's main page, it's at pinal.gov. You'll go into the Development Services Department. If you go up here to our county, you're looking for Development Services, which is right here. And then under Development Services, you'll go to the Public Works Department. And right here is the main page. And in this main page, you can report a traffic issue. So this is, traffic's backed up, a sign is down, all of those different, we need our stop bar restriped, things like that can come through this avenue, and you'll just submit this online form. That online form then goes back to our administrative group over at the county, and then on to a traffic engineer to come and investigate the issue.
And I will say, I've done that, and they're very good with getting back with me.
Amazing,
They
we
are.
love to hear that.
Very good with getting back.
We try to make it user-friendly.
Yeah.
I have to give you some kudos for a reported road issue, because on Facebook, people were bitching and moaning about some huge pothole. And I was like, well, is anybody doing anything about it? And I don't know if you guys already had it on your radar, but I put in a reported road issue, and within 3 days, they kind of filled it in because it was immense. But so, I'm gonna say that it was my thing that did it. It was already on your radar. And I'm gonna give you the credit that you guys acted on so
Rarely hear
quickly.
Good news, so
So
we
thank
love that.
What about I live in Solera, and when you come out onto Hunt Highway, it's almost impossible to go straight across to make a left turn. So we have for 4 years since I've been there, we try to get into the middle of the road. And well, a friend of mine the other day did that, and a police officer came and gave her a ticket and said, you can't be right
In
there.
the suicide lane.
That's
So
what I call it too.
Turn lane is not a merge lane.
Celeste, on that new apartment complex that's going there in front of Solera, is there a traffic light?
There's a,
Not
when
at
we
Solera,
run
though.
Hunt Highway.
No, but that traffic light will help calm the traffic down so that our
When we
Solera
widened
residents can
Hunt
get.
Highway several years ago, we did a warrant study for a potential traffic signal at the Solera entrance, and it didn't warrant the need for a traffic signal. Part of the problem is the gated access. It'll never back up 10, 15 cars because they can't get beyond the gate. And then we also looked at the fact that you also have access onto Gary Road. So you could be able to use your Gary Road entrance to be able to make that easy right-hand turn up to Hunt Highway. Supervisor Goodman's talking about a new traffic signal that a multifamily will build at the Stone Creek Drive location or somewhere in that area, which when that traffic signal goes in and it turns red, there will be that better opportunity for you to make the left-hand turn. We'll coordinate that new signal with the Bella Vista signal so that there's a red time for not only you and Solera, but Johnson Ranch, Unit 51 on the other side to be able to make those movements easier.
Is there any proposed time frame for doing that?
The multifamily, I don't know if
They're in their final plat.
they're working through their plan review
Yeah.
process. They're moving towards construction. They're definitely
So
coming.
probably sometime next year, you'll see some movement as far as construction is concerned. It'll probably take them about a year and a half to do all the infrastructure before they actually start, before we look at the light.
And also, as long as we're talking about, I call that the sardine neighborhoods, because the houses are so packed with together. I was told that developers have to get their zoning changed. I'm talking developers in general. They have to get zoning changed, and oftentimes when they get the zoning changed, they don't care if they adhere to what they promised or not.
That's not true, because it's spelled out pretty specific, all that they are required to do on their developments. Now, in the past, there has been some situations probably.
We've gotten a lot better at holding
We're
feet to the
pretty-
fire.
Yeah, they have to call us for coming and doing inspections and things of that nature, and so, yeah,
And
we're talking 15 years ago, that was a problem.
at least, it was before my time,
Yeah,
so maybe 20.
yeah,
The next session we have in April, 18, yeah. The next session we have in April, we're gonna have a representative, our community development associate director, he'll be here, as well as generally transportation projects. We didn't want to hit on everything we have going on transportation with just this presentation. We wanted to focus in on the preservation fund. But in April, I think on the 25th, we'll be back to talk about anything and everything you want to talk about development-wise, for sure.
So there's an open house on the 11th and then another General
Education
meeting on-
series,
the 25th?
25th, correct.
Could you just explain, so I'm a developer and I want to build, and I have to meet with county employees, presumably in one of the offices, yours and others. And at that point, there's some negotiation that takes place as to what they'll do. And then it goes to this advisory board. What's it called?
The Planning and Zoning Commission.
No,
TAP?
the TAF. Yeah.
No, those development
Those are for roads.
projects are just.
Just roads,
Just
okay.
road infrastructure.
All right, so do they get input as to the road changes?
They do, yes. So there's some qualifications that need to happen, right? We need to maintain the road, needs to check that box. We need to have land rights. There needs to be a volume on that road of over 100 cars a day. And it needs to provide some sort of environmental compliance. So it needs to serve a purpose. So there's several categories that have to be checked before it makes that list for the Transportation Committee to review. So those projects then get vetted. So if only 10 projects come in that are worth $2 million, there's not enough projects that people have submitted of that 15 million. So the remainder of that tends to just go into pavement preservation oftentimes.
Okay, so I'm this developer, I meet with the county engineers and so on, and then it goes to the, what did you say, planning and zoning.
They're
And then-
recommending body to the
And then they can also negotiate with the developer, or is the negotiations done?
the Planning and Zoning Commission, they can stipulate, they can consider some other improvements that the developer should make, yes.
And then it gets recommended to the Board of Supervisors, and they can make changes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Once the permitting process go into effect, do they have to wait until they're rezoned before they get a permit
Absolutely.
to build? That's good to know.
At what point does the public become aware of the development?
So the zoning process is a public process. So you'll see those big yellow hearing signs. We're gonna change from rural to some urban, type zoning. At that hearing, there's a public hearing. So those are opportunities for you to go and voice.
What if there's not a zoning change
You're
involved?
gonna see a big yellow sign that says they're rezoning this area.
Yeah.
If there is
And
a
that's whenever, if you look at it, and it usually will tell you what they want to rezone it to.
And if you live close to the area, you'll get a.
Well, that's
Yeah, you'll get like.
that's another thing.
Yeah.
It's only what, 600 feet or something?
I don't know, it's very small, but
Yes.
still.
Yeah, it's not very big. But you know what? I
So
think,
that's good.
that's a good question. I'll have,
We will answer this question on April 25th. I'm
Yeah.
almost positive.
Yeah, they'll be talking about rezoning and then what recourse you have in the event that you're not happy with the
there you go.
potential rezoning. And that's what we'll be speaking about in part, among other things, about a month from today, April 25th here at the CAC.
Yep, and you'll have folks in that room that can tell you all those future things that are coming, that know more about what's on the horizon when it comes to commercial.
Tell your friends, let's get a bigger turnout.
Right?
Celeste, can you?
You'll get a huge turnout for the rezoning one.
I hope so.
You're gonna go in
The
your
four
chair.
things that you mentioned, maintain roads on the land, over 100 cars per day, what was the last one?
Environmental.
Environmental,
considerations. We'd like to do, so the county transportation projects we like to do on regional roads, arterial roads, section line roads. Those also score higher when we prioritize transportation advisory committee projects.
So does the environmental part, does that incorporate light pollution?
It does, Congestion mitigation, dust,
Right.
all of those things.
This gentleman has one.
Country Thunder. I know that the project to improve Hunt Highway and Nottaway Road, about 300 feet, around 150 acres on Hunt Highway. And I know that's already on the books to improve the intersection there. The intersection
Florence.
backs up on Nottaway Road all the way to Palmer, that's 2 miles. Sometimes it backs up all the way to the Gila River, okay? When that happens, people take a shortcut through our property, okay? And there's a lot of things we could do, like talk to the police, we talked to Chandler, or City of Florence Fire, City of Florence Police, Pinal County Sheriffs, and it seems like it never gets, matter of fact, the road has got a sign on there,
Yeah.
Signal Butte Road, and they say there's a sign there, so Google Maps takes people down there. It's a dirt road, okay, so maybe that's one thing we could do, is say, the last time I was there, when people were going around, when there's an accident, not just country, there's an accident or anything on Hunt Highway, Nottaway Road, it backs up forever. And they go down Palmer Road and come up our road.
Yeah.
And one time there was a full-length semi truck coming up, and I said, oh geez, here he's coming. The cloud of dust was so thick behind him, I didn't realize there were 14 cars behind the truck coming up our road, Signal Butte.
Have you met Supervisor McClure yet?
I mean, it's not Signal Butte, it's Walker Butte Lane.
Okay, Supervisor McClure is over.
What's that?
Supervisor McClure, Jeffrey McClure.
And what department?
He's
He's
your
the
elected.
supervisor over in that area. He's my equivalent over there. And what I would suggest, you give him a call, you get the county together along with the city, and you guys figure out what you're gonna do on that backside.
I can
And
tell you
that's
that.
where I would go.
I mean, Country Thunder is the worst. It's coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we don't even go there. We shut down on our board
don't go to
meetings.
work
don't
that
even
day.
go there.
Those days.
I took my
But-
wife there when
We got ditches, we pulled people out of the canal. Okay, there's gonna be an accident. Okay.
That's it.
Jeffrey.
Oh, there we go.
Anyway, we pulled people out of the canal. They don't want people on those kinds of roads because we've got concrete ditches and it's not maintained by the county because they gotta widen it, we gotta keep people out of our concrete
That's where
ditches.
you
But
go, right?
we have pulled people out of the canal and nobody's been killed or anything yet, but it's an accident waiting to happen. It's private road, you want dust mitigation. Go watch the road when people are going around there, the dust is just horrendous. Okay?
We wish that we.
But I'll send it to him.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question, going back to the 36 million that you get from this half cent, whatever. And the fact that Pinal County, let's just say for, the numbers straight out is 500,000. We're about 100,000 on a, slow day here in Santan Valley. How much of that 36 million would you say that you're spending in this area?
Well, it's based on population.
Well, I can tell you a majority of our projects come out of Santan Valley. We've spent, you did,
$217 million within the last 8 years.
and portions of that were the excise fund. Obviously, it was much more, but there was HERF revenues, bonds. Nowhere else in the county did we ever spend $200 million on infrastructure.
It hasn't, nowhere else in the county do you have it exploding the way it is here
Right.
either though,
You
right?
guys
Well, we're the
are all.
ones responsible. We're not a municipality.
Yeah. I know
So we're the
that's
ones
fine.
responsible for all that. So anytime you hear Queen Creek or Maricopa, the city of Maricopa radio complain about that, or Casa Grande, just say, guys, chill. You get a portion of the other revenue sources that, anyway, we've had rounds with it, but no, and by God, we fought for it, we're getting it. You guys are fighting traffic like now because we are building roads. We're getting construction done. We're getting crap done.
Has there ever been any thought about putting like a moratorium on building until the roads catch up a little bit with what's happening?
We had a moratorium with the Johnson Utilities issues, and that was released, and quite honestly, no, we can't do that.
No, it's just.
No, we cannot, I think because the developments is is pushing to help bring us up where we need to be. Do you follow what I'm saying?
They need the rooftop taxes to pay for the infrastructure.
We need the rooftop, no, what we need
What you
is
need
the
is
impact
commercial-
fees and them doing
That's
their
true.
portion to improve their roads.
Yeah, but you have plenty of rooftops in this area, I think, right now.
But keep in mind,
Yeah.
we do not use
Not
property
property
taxes to
tax.
pay
No,
for
and
it.
I know but the thing is, the roads, are part of the problem, is probably why you can't get businesses out here.
Well-
No, businesses are coming,
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you.
In
We've had a
April, you're gonna
lot.
hear about the urban core,
Yeah,
which is a cool
We're gonna
area.
be coming back, talking to everybody about, we've got a huge project that we're pulling together with State Land Department on a huge piece of property that they have. That will be the central core of our entire Santan Valley area. And we're working on that now.
Do we buy that land from the state? Is it donated to the county? How does that work?
Answered on April 25th.
Hey,
That's a good one.
That is a good question.
Yeah,
boy, talk about ducking a question.
You don't want to stay with us.
That's how you get up. How are you gonna pay for all of this? That's how you get up, because they'll come up.
Right?
Just a show of hands, how many of you would vote for this half-cent tax renewal?
I voted for it last. It didn't pass.
Oh,
Okay,
wow, that's great.
so you're preaching to the choir here, it's.
Well, and that's gonna be, anytime we as neighbors can let our other people know and help them get educated on this.
That's the whole thing, is educating them, because they're
Yeah,
just,
get the
and it
word
just is
out.
so irritating because people are just so ignorant and they just want to blame instead of showing up here tonight and getting educated.
You gotta compare the half a cent a gallon tax with $3 a gallon we've been paying for 4 years. How many halves a cent is that? I mean, you gotta
You only
convey
pay
that to the
$3?
voters.
We need to bill you.
Well, I thank you for being here, speaking of getting people here and being here and showing up. Whether you've been here your whole life, you're born and raised here, my children are either 6th or 7th generation. So Horn Road, I'm Lisa Horn. Horn Road in Mesa went out to my husband's great-grandfather's dairy farm. Chrisman Road, Charles Chrisman is my children's 4 times great-grandfather. He's considered one of the founders of Mesa. So Chrisman and Horn is my family, and those are roads. They're in Arizona, and I don't know if they would have had seen what was coming down the line. I wasn't born here. I came here when I was 8 years old, and lived over in Warner Ranch, over by Corona del Sol.
Love it.
On Ray and Warner. And I remember as a little girl seeing horses go up to the Circle K, and I'm like, where have we moved? We came here from Texas, and I'm like, where are we? And what is going on? But it's just exploded, right? Like that was the edge of society at that point in time back in the 80s. That was like the Santan Valley now, and it's just grown and grown and grown.
And now
my
they're
husband's
landlocked.
and my husband's family, that they've been living here since the 1800s. They helped settle the area. So it's neat to see people coming together like yourself that have been here. You were born here, but then also transplants to the area that care about what's happening, that care about the area, the infrastructure, and what we are essentially leaving to our posterity. That was mentioned earlier as well. So thank you for being here. A round of applause to Celeste Garza, Deputy Director, and to our Supervisor Goodman, for showing up and speaking impromptu. We appreciate it. We will have our next meeting, education session rather, on Thursday, April 25th. I don't have it in front of me, but that we will really heavily focus on zoning. Rezoning, what recourse do you have, kind of talking about who gets those letters so that they can speak up and say something. How do those public hearings go? What are you allowed to say? How does the interaction play out? All of those questions will be answered at that time. So do spread the word, and we invite you to come back. We're really trying to grow our membership. If you're interested in being a member of the Santan Valley Advisory Council, let's give him a round of applause. So nice and great back there to me on that table. He has a paper where you can sign in and get your email address added. We are also we have a couple of open spots on our board of directors. So if that's something that you might also be interested in, let us know. We definitely could use all the help that we can get, because there's thousands of people here in unincorporated Santan Valley. And so we need more representation and more input so that we can kind of bridge that gap between us and the county. But the county's doing a great job. So thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I got 150 acres for sale. Are you a developer?
No,
Oh, I thought you said you were a developer.
no, I said if I was.
Oh, if you were a developer.